Hi. So I'm in a different room in the house and I want to demonstrate to you some of the things that I'd suggested in the information that I emailed yesterday. I have got a drawing board with a half A4 size piece of paper, and I've also I've printed off the pictures of Iris, which haven't come out very well. We've got a rubbish printer. But I've got them on the board so that I can try and draw at the same time the figure of Iris seated and then what's in front of me, which is the bedroom window with the desk. So let me demonstrate that to you. I think the best place to start is with the figure of Iris, and I'm suggesting that just a general point that this project, I think I've tried to slow things down a bit. So rather than producing studies and then producing a larger piece of work, I'm getting you to try just some studies this morning and maybe work up one of the studies into a slightly more developed study. And then between now and the next time we have a session, you might want to get started on a bigger piece of work or save the bigger piece of work for the next session. So starting with studies, and this is a really useful thing to learn to do, to try and put a figure in a particular setting. There's my setting, it's the bedroom window. I've put the chair roughly at the angle that the chair is in the photograph I've chosen of Iris, and I've got to decide how big to do her. And I think I'm going to do her quite small and over here. So what I'm asking you to try and do is combine information from two sources. And as hopefully well illustrated by those amazing drawings by Edward Hopper, you can see that if you keep your drawings fairly simplified, so working this scale actually is quite helpful because you can't get into too much detail. But if you keep your drawings fairly simplified, then it's easy to change them. And this challenge of trying to combine two sources of information is a bit easier if it's done small and quickly and can be changed. So that's my suggestion of the figure of Iris. I might just get in a bit of the chair just so I can see. I don't see much of the chair, but see how that relates. Now, where am I going to put her? If I put her in that chair over there, I've just got to guess a little bit where things line up, but I think this is probably the top of the desk. And I suggested if you look at some of the sketches by Hopper, there's that particular example where he's drawn nighthawks, which is the figures in a bar, seen through the bar window. And he just has put down a few horizontal lines to suggest the architecture. So I've put down the line of the desk and then maybe the line of the base of the window. And where will the window be then? I think the window might come here and the other side of the window over here. So just trying to keep it simple. There's going to be some curtain there. And I chose to put Iris there, thinking that if the window is here and I've got a bit of curtain over there, then actually we can have this part of the room. I don't know how much you can see. You can see a bit of it, it's a bit cluttered. But we've got a nice fireplace, which is probably a mantelpiece up there, and a bit of a fireplace here, I think. So something like that. That would be a way to start, just so that you can see how the different things fit together. I would then go back and forth between the two of them. I mean, I feel I've got lucky here, really. This works reasonably well. But I would then go on a little bit further. So maybe go back to the drawing of Iris. I've got a thin stick of charcoal. I'll do a quick demonstration in a minute using some pencil, because you may not have charcoal. And I'm also on some grey paper. So I'm just using the thin stick of charcoal to make this figure a little bit stronger. But I'm not giving her features. It's a nice pose with her holding the cup. So I do want to get some of that to see if it makes my composition, my narrative believable. So I'm just strengthening some of the lines that I started with to see if they still make sense. A bit to her and then maybe a bit more to the background. So the front of the desk is dark. And then the curtains, looking with eyes half closed, the curtains are quite dark. And some of the window frame. So I can carry on with that, and then of course all of this is a bit darker because this is in the room. The fireplace is definitely darker. So I'm just drawing lines, hatching. I can smudge a bit, see what that does. That quietens down some of my background. And because it's grey paper, I can also try a bit of chalk, which is a nice quick way of getting in some light. So I've got plenty of light coming through the window. There's light on the desk. And when I look at the photograph, there's light on the front of Iris's face. And on her neck. On her arms, shoulder. Her jumper. Her legs. And again, if I look at the room, there's a bit of light on the floor. So the chalk is quite useful on grey paper to make that start to work. Maybe a bit of light in the curtains. And so on. So that's probably almost enough for that one. I could do more to it, but that's just giving me an idea. I think probably I would do more to the fireplace. Because if I'm looking for an interesting composition, it's not just the figure being convincing, it's making it an interesting setting. So I think if I darken the curtains, for example, that draws a bit more attention to her. Do I want to put something on the desk? There's some papers on the desk. So I can play around with that a little bit, but I think that's as far as I'll go with that one. Let me show you some others. That's another one where I made her much bigger. It's the same pose with the cup. Do I try one there? Different possibilities. And then I also, just to show you some variety, I tried one in pencil, and that was for the other photograph, where I went vertical. And with the pencil, maybe just to show you that quickly, same approach, but you can't put any white chalk on to a pencil drawing. So the best thing, I think, is to start fairly faintly. Let's put her over this side. So don't press too hard with the pencil. Again, I would start with Iris and her magazine. We'll start with some lines. If you want to make her a little bit stronger, you could, eyes half closed, you could shade in some tone. And I've just realised, so this is a deliberate mistake to spot. I was going to put the window over here, but of course the light is coming in from the right. What will we do? Well, let's just put the window over here then. That's where the window is going to be. So this is a happy accident, because now the curtain is going to be there, and it's going to be all about the fireplace and the mantelpiece with its pictures. So if you're doing pencil, you can't put white on, but you can gradually build up your pencil drawing. So there's a little bit of a start. I would go back and go on strengthening things, strengthening lines. Again, don't worry too much about features. Not for this one, this is just to try out the different possibilities. So strengthen the lines, build up some of the tone, and a big area like the area of the room that's not lit, do very broad hatching across. Working with pencil is a bit like etching in a way. You can just build up more and more lines. You can rub out, but it's quite a good process not to do too much rubbing out. but just to gradually build things up and make them stronger until eventually you get to some very dark contrast. So that is the first and main task. Try and do 2 or 3 studies. Use pencil or charcoal and chalk if you've got some grey paper, and try out some different compositions, much like what was in the examples by Hopper. I've given you 4 photographs of Iris, so you could try putting her into some of your settings. Maybe you've got a model or your own photographs. You can work with them, but try and place these figures. Try some different possibilities so that you can then choose. Then I would take a larger piece of paper. So it could be a larger piece of grey or a larger piece of white, depending on what's available to you, and work up one of the compositions. So when I look at mine, I think I probably... Where's the other one gone? Yeah, I think I like something in between the two of them. So I think she's too small in this one for my liking. I mean, it's not there's anything wrong with it, but I think she's too small in that one and a little bit too big in that. So I would go for, if I crop this down a bit less fireplace, bit less window, but I'd still have her just to the left of the centre. And so the next thing that I would get you to do is, having chosen some elements or a particular one of those compositions, rework it on a slightly bigger scale, A4, and produce a study where you could actually get into things like her hands, a suggestion of features, and deciding how much of the background to bring out. A point I'd really like to make about Hopper is that he's incredibly good at simplifying his subject matter. So if you were able to compare the drawings that I've sent you with the eventual finished paintings, you'd see how undetailed the paintings are, even though they're completely convincing. But we'll look at that next time. When you go from your larger study to beginning a more developed piece of work in paint or pastel or mixed media, we can talk about that, about how you take things further and what you select, what you edit, and so on. So I hope that's clear. I've been a little bit quicker with this video, thank goodness. So you haven't spent hours having to watch me talk, but I hope I've been clear, and I hope you can now get on with your studies, and you can photograph them, email them to me, text them to me. That's worked pretty well, and I'll give you some feedback, and then we'll work towards the larger studies, A4 size, that we can show to each other when we have our Zoom meeting at 1. Okay, so good luck. Thank you.